You're listening to the Breakdown Duo with Deb and T-Wise. They break it down to build you up. Let's join this mother-son duo as they break down tonight's hot topic.
All right, what's up, everybody? This is T-Wise. I'm here with my mom, Deb.
Hey, everybody. Good to be here. Hey, Tyler.
What's up?
It is going to be it's been a really busy week, with getting the YouTube, getting the podcast set. It's just been really busy.
It has.
Now that you're working full time.
I
But
had a second job.
yeah, two full-time jobs, really, if you think about it. So, wow, you're doing great. Plus podcast.
Yeah,
So,
lots going on.
yeah. So anyway, I think it's been a really fun week because our topic last week got a lot of controversy. We heard from a lot of you, and a lot of people disagreed with us. Some agreed with us.
Mhm.
I think one of the funnest things for me, I don't know about you, but one of the funnest things was one of our listeners said, "You make me think about how I feel about this and what I really think and what I want to teach my kids." I don't know what more we could want than to get somebody to be challenged to think through something.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes it really fun for me. How about
Yeah.
you?
Well, isn't that the whole point of what we're doing is
Yeah.
to break down topics to hopefully build people up, and in the process of building them up, get them thinking outside of their normal thought process,
Yeah.
and challenge their way of thinking, and like you said, not necessarily have to agree with where we're coming from, but to just evaluate and think differently, or
Yeah.
just to ask more questions, because that's how we learn,
That's right.
is by asking questions and being open, and then if we say something that you don't like or disagree with, go do your own research and support why you feel the way you do. Right?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons we keep just kind of using topics that we're living.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's jump into this week's topic. It is a result of a meeting I was in. And just a regular meeting, going over some things. And we started talking about raising the bar.
Okay.
And I thought a lot about that, Tyler, because it seems like sometimes in anything that we do, after we've done it a while, we can get comfortable and sloppy. We have talked about that in our podcast, how maybe we don't really give thought to a topic, or we don't work it well. And so in this meeting, we were talking about raising the bar, and what I mean by that is raising the expectations, raising the standards of how we're doing something. And I was kind of surprised because there's some pushback. And so I thought it might be really fun for us to talk today about what does it mean to raise the bar? How did that saying come about? And why do people struggle with that? Or do they? So I did a little bit of research, and I think the way that whole saying came about was from track and field. And so in track, they have I always forget, the high jump and the pole vault. And the bar is set at a certain level.
Right.
And I thought one article is really good because they said you wouldn't set the bar higher than anyone had ever gone to start with. So you start it not low, but you start it where you're going to challenge and get some people weeded out quickly who are not going to be able to do it. So you can really get the competition moving forward. And so it's called setting the bar. And so when they raise the bar, it's like, okay, everybody's completed that. Let's raise the bar and go to another level, move. And that's what in this meeting we were talking about. Let's get this we were talking about a ministry in our church. Let's get this ministry back up. So it's first class, organized and detailed, and because we've really slacked on some things.
Yeah.
But the pushback was, well, if we set the bar high, those who can't reach it just won't try. So we'll have a lot of people that won't even try to participate. That gave me pause. So what do you think of that?
Yeah. Well, how do you know if you don't try whether or not you can reach the bar or not? And furthermore, part of trying is getting better. You know, not everybody starts at the bar, but part of trying to get there is every time you try, you get better and better and better until eventually you can reach it.
Right.
Then that bar gets moved again.
So
Right.
like when you were in high school, you did pole vaulting.
Yeah.
Did you have a goal that in your mind you wanted to get to eventually, like you wanted to get to 16 feet or 15 feet, or was there?
No, it was just I want to win the meet and I want to come in first, which means my goal is to go higher than the people I'm competing against.
Yeah.
And so when I'm saying part of trying is that you get better and better, like in track and field, you have personal records, PRs.
Right.
And you have personal records because in practice, you might do better than you do in the meet. Or you might have that personal record of, okay, in practice, this last practice was my best one, my personal record, and I went, 17 feet in pole vault. And then in the track meet that happens that Friday or that weekend, all of a sudden, that Saturday I end up doing 17.5. Okay. Well, that personal record was that original bar that was set for myself.
Yeah.
And then I was trying to beat that, knowing that if I beat that personal record, I had a good chance of beating the competition.
Yeah.
But if I never joined the track team because I had heard that people were really athletic, or I never said, hey, I want to try that particular event. I've never done it before, but I just want to give it a try. If I never took those initial steps and I just instantly thought like, oh, well, there's no way I could do that.
Yeah.
How do I know?
I know, and I agree with that. But what do you say to the person that says, well, I could never do that. So unless you bring it down a little bit, I'm not even going to try.
Because I don't think they've ever had someone in their life be blunt enough to challenge them on it.
Or not just blunt. Maybe they haven't had somebody in their life that has encouraged them to go beyond.
Yeah, or see, I say blunt, and you take that as a negative thing,
Right.
or not necessarily you. A lot of people take that as a negative thing. I say blunt, and in this meaning, the way I'm using it is in a loving manner. I care enough to tell you, listen, don't be like that. Don't be okay with being average and not even trying. Step out beyond your comfort zone. And I'm telling you and I'm challenging you that because I love you.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be the only one that comes across blunt because that's how much I care about you.
Yeah. And it's just approach. I would approach it differently. Sure. In fact, in having this discussion, one of my friends said, well, I was always average. I was an introvert, so the bar was always too high.
But who defines average?
That's a good question. And what's wrong with average?
Because there's a lot of people that say, hey, if you don't get around certain situations or certain social settings, you're going to be socially awkward. Okay, well, at one point, Elon Musk, the wealthiest person in the world, was socially awkward. At one point, Bill Gates was socially awkward. Like, again, who's determining these definitions and defining what's what?
Well, I mean, it's kind of a consensus, but I think a bigger point, instead of who defines it, is what do we do with those definitions? And, a story comes to mind because, and I think you've probably heard this, but maybe our listeners haven't. Often I was introduced by my mom
Mhm.
as Debbie. This is my average daughter who's amazing. That's how she introduced me, average and amazing. I was never offended. I never ever felt less than, but I will admit, except for my golf and my cheerleading, I was very content to be average until my best friend Pam said to me one day at college, we were in college, and I said, okay, well, I got a test tomorrow, and I'm hoping for a C. And she literally did exactly what you just said. She lovingly but bluntly said, that is so much garbage.
Mhm.
My name was Taylor. Then she goes, Taylor, why do you short sell yourself? You are so smart. And I'm like, oh no, I'm just average. No, you're not average. You just don't try.
Right.
I ended up, I graduated. Well, I didn't graduate from that year. I had like a 3.8 in college,
Mhm.
just because somebody challenged me and then gave me that little nudge that I could do it. They raised the bar for me and I went for it. I just feel like we are getting pretty wimpy as a
Yeah,
generalization.
I don't know if I would use wimpy. I mean, sure, you could say that in a lot of instances. I'm almost thinking more, um, we have become uh, okay being complacent.
Yeah.
And there's where before I feel like maybe there would be more people in your life to challenge you
Yeah.
and say, no, go for this, try it, do
You
it.
can
Who
do
cares
it.
if you fail? That we've more and more become okay saying, oh, if that scares you, it's okay. You don't have to do it.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think that's wimpy. I think it's just a lack of going back to people caring.
Yeah.
It's I think I would maybe approach it from this standpoint. I have heard people say this before, and I say this all the time too, um, when I'm doing training and that type of stuff. I don't think God created anybody to be average. I genuinely believe that God created everyone, no matter what they excel in, but in their area of life, to approach everything to do it 100% and to go all out and to be the best they can be.
Mm-hmm.
So when I hear people say like I've always been average and I just like
I'm an introvert or
I don't
I'm
even try because
shy.
Hey, maybe you're introverted, maybe you're shy, maybe you're scared, whatever, but God did not instill you with this um this like not motive but like a heart of fear.
Yeah.
Right. it he wants you to be that incredible person that you're meant to be. So that's just your own headspace right there.
Yeah.
That's it. That doesn't mean you can't do it.
Yeah, that's a good point. One of the things I was thinking about in raising the bar, this kind of goes off topic a little bit, but it just seems like complacent. You use the word complacent. I think that's really it, because some things came to my mind that I feel like we've kind of gotten complacent on, and maybe we need to raise the bar. So, and I don't know if you'll agree with these, but some things that came to mind, I wrote them down, like just showing up. People, it feels like a lot of times just don't show up.
Yeah.
It's way easier to make an excuse than to just do what you said you would do.
Absolutely.
And so that means that we've lowered the bar on being dependable. We've lowered the bar, it seems like, on following through with what you say you'll do.
Being disciplined.
Yeah, discipline. I have a friend recently, and we were talking about some things she's trying to do, and we've been trying to memorize scripture. And here's the deal: you have to work at it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to practice it.
Well,
And if you're not going to, you're just not going to.
yeah, there's 2 areas in my life where I think I spent so much time working to avoid it that if I would have just done it, I would have even done better. And so, like in high school, we were so good at coming up ways to cheat on tests
Oh, seriously.
because none of us wanted to study, and so. But
I
the
didn't know
crazy thing
that.
is, we spent so much time working together on strategies to cheat, from spending hours typing up like tiny little font that we could hide inside of like Mountain Dew.
Instead of just studying.
Yeah, Mountain Dew deals, and so that we could act like we're getting a drink and really we're looking at the answers.
Unbelievable.
And I mean, so many dumb things like that, that had we just studied and done what was right and been disciplined, we would have gotten A, we would have felt better about ourselves, and we put the equal amount of time into it, right?
Exactly.
So
see, that's another area I think we've let down in. I can't tell you how many times my dad said it to me, and I think Dad and I said it to you. Don't just do what's expected. Always go beyond. Because anybody can do what's expected. It's when you go, and even today, like I think I was recently in a store and stopped a guy in the meat department and said, I know you work in the meat department, but do you know where I would find this? And he goes, oh yeah. And he started walking. I said, oh no, if you just tell me what aisle, you don't have to take me there. He goes, I said, yeah, that's why I said, you don't have to take me there. And he goes, I know. And just 90 miles a minute walked over, and he goes, it's right here. And he goes, what are you going to do with it? And I was just like, this guy is amazing. I mean, he went so far beyond. And the interesting thing about that, it's not my regular store to shop in. So when I went to get something else a few days later, I went back there just because of the way I was treated. Because his bar was so much higher than I'm used to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm used to like, oh, I don't know, I don't work in that department.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, we've been talking about going 100% in track and all that, and I think raising the bar should be done across the board in your life.
Yeah.
So we always talk about all the different areas. I refer to them, and the way I was taught was the 5 F's: your faith, family, fitness, finance, and fun. And if you can conquer all those and do them to the best of your ability, you're doing pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And but interesting thing is, number one on that of the 5 F's is faith. So if you raise the bar in your relationship with Jesus, and like you said, memorizing scripture and being intentional about your prayer time and your devotions, and being consistent at church, and what will end up happening, I believe, is that being number one will filter into the other 4 areas of your life, and
give you success.
Yeah, I think you will start to see that all of a sudden, by doing that number one thing and raising the bar on it, all of a sudden, naturally, the bar in your marriage is raised.
Yeah.
Because if you're treating your relationship with Jesus different, how do you not treat your relationship with your spouse different? Right? Because that's the primary example with God. And I think you would just naturally overflow of that love, and all of a sudden your spouse will be like, holy cow, I feel like there's something different about you.
Yeah.
Right? And same thing with your kids.
That's so good.
And if your kids, like I say this all the time with dad, the one thing I remember about dad in high school, specifically high school, because I had to get there earlier,
Yeah.
and I had like 5 a.m. basketball practice sometimes, is I remember that I'd come down early and I'm groggy and tired, and there's dad sitting in his chair reading his Bible opened up on his lap every single morning. And because he was getting right, I witnessed that. And so from an early age, to me, the example of a father and
That's
a man,
a high bar.
yeah, the example of a father and man was always, oh, the very first thing he does every day is he spends his quiet time with Jesus.
Yeah.
Like, what an incredible example, right? So again, because he was doing number one, then number two followed suit,
Yeah.
right? And again, that can just filter into everything else. I'm not going to go through every one, but I think you get the point, right?
No, I think that's brilliant. Yeah, in fact, you made me sitting here listening to you, and I don't know if I could explain this, and I might be digging a hole for myself, but it occurred to me that in a way, God raised the bar when Jesus came.
Yeah.
Because here was this law that everybody had to live to, and God was present. It was present in the tabernacle and through all of it. But boy, he raised the bar when he sent Jesus. And then when Christ died on the cross and the Holy Spirit came, now we live in a totally different realm because we have that personal relationship through the Holy Spirit when we come to know Christ, and we're called to a higher standard. He says, be holy as I am holy. So he wants us to live at a different level, totally dependent on him. And I loved what you said, because if we can do that, if we can raise that bar in our own lives, it will filter in. It will be a model. It will, when somebody throws something out their car window, like we talked about last week, we will have that instant, we know what to do. We know how to react.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a really good illustration that you gave. And I think the call to lean into Jesus, no matter what situation, whether you're in the best of times or the hardest of times, when we lean in, it's phenomenal.
Right.
He is sufficient.
There was a time in my life when a lot of people used to ask me, what's wrong with you? Do you think you're better than everybody? Or why do you act so cocky? Or whatever. And internally in my mind, when I got asked that, I got confronted, I would be like, yes, I am better than you. And it's by design, right? I mean, and keep in mind, this was the exact same time where I was also starting to learn about humility. But
they do go together.
But what I'm getting at is, during that period of time, what was going on is I was spending hours in the gym working on basketball and working out, lifting weights. I mean, 2.5 hours of actual practice with the team, then another 2 hours off-site doing my own thing, then shoot around in the morning, like every day, and then weekend, like no days off. And so I definitely felt like I'm putting more effort into this than anybody else I know. Then kind of the same thing across the board. It was not just sports. Yeah, I didn't do any drugs. I didn't drink underage. I didn't go to these crazy parties. I purposely tried to stay on the straight and narrow, because my focus was the long term. It was, I want to get a basketball scholarship, and I don't want anything socially to get in the way of jeopardizing what I'm trying to accomplish on the sports side of things. And then at the same time, because I grew up in the church, and you guys were on the pastoral staff, I was always trying to live up to the standard of being a good church person.
Mhm.
So involved in everything and volunteering for everything. And so by design, on purpose, being so diligent and working so hard in so many different areas, and looking out and seeing my classmates and my friends do a lot of the opposite and party all the time and drink all the time and be lazy and not work as hard. And when they would say, like, what, you think you're better than us? Yeah, I do, because I am trying harder. Right.
Yeah, at least-
So, but again, like, no, I'm not better than you,
yeah,
but I am putting in the effort that you're not willing to do. And so go back and you have people in your life that say, well, I've always been average. Well, I think I would question that and say, well, how much effort have you tried not to be average?
Yeah.
Because you might shock yourself.
yeah. And here's an interesting, the person who said that, in my eyes, is anything but average.
Right.
I think they're amazing,
Right.
and they're so talented. So yeah, it's crazy how we, but that's one thing, if you're listening today, if you don't have anybody in your life that encourages you, change it. Because there are people that have that gift. There are people that probably want to be part of your life, but we got to change things up a little bit. We've been very fortunate. We've always had people in our life. I mean, before I ever knew anything about Christianity, or before I became a Christian, I had parents who consistently encouraged me to try things,
Mhm.
and were always for me. So I had a really good childhood just in that. And yet at the same time, I struggled. Because I was trying so hard to be this good little girl and make everybody happy. And people would always say, "Oh, Deb's so happy." So I felt like that was who I had to be. So I never showed any weakness, so to speak, even as a little girl. And it almost made me sick.
Yeah.
So getting to a point where I knew I didn't have to try that hard, that I just had to be me and let God work through me. Oh man, no wonder I've never looked back.
It's interesting that you said that, because I think that might be part of why people don't put that effort in. Is, I guess one way of saying it is, if you don't try, then you don't have to worry about failing.
It's true.
And I think so many people are afraid of that what if. Or, like, for me, one of the things that happened is I tried so hard in so many different areas that it was almost the opposite, because I was putting so much effort in. When I didn't reach that bar that I was going after, then internally I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm a failure. What
Yeah.
happened? And enough of that, and then you're almost afraid to try, because it's like,
It's
well,
true.
look how much effort I put in, I still didn't get it.
Yeah.
And thank goodness what age and maturity has done is it's allowed me to see the journey and all the things on that journey that I was able to experience and accomplish and do.
Yeah.
And the old phrase, like, reach for the stars and hit the clouds.
Yeah.
And I mean, man, sure, I never made it to the NBA, and I didn't hit all the goals I wanted to in the sports realm, but I still had some incredible experiences.
Yeah.
And a ton of fun. And like sports, I believe, are supposed to, it absolutely shaped my work ethic and my character.
Yeah.
And so much of what sports is supposed to do for young adults.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't regret any of it.
Yeah.
Actually, this is interesting. I was having a conversation this morning, and they asked me, yeah, I heard it, like you're really into basketball and it's like you love it. And I said, I do. And they said, you still play? I said, funny you asked that because,
Yeah.
I kind of explained to them I was playing 5 days a week
Yeah.
up until about 6 months ago. And just so many old injuries and stuff were hurting. And then all of a sudden, like my heel and my Achilles started hurting every single night to where I could barely walk the next day. And I was like, it scared me so bad because I'm thinking, I can't afford the time to rehab an injury like a torn Achilles. And also, I want to be able to walk when I'm 80 and 90.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be stuck in a wheelchair or whatever when I'm that age. So I ended up quitting cold turkey. And I don't know if I told you this, but for as much as basketball has been a part of my life, this is how I know that I did everything I was supposed to do. And I gave it enough effort that I felt good about it. Because when I quit cold turkey and in 6 months, I've never touched a basketball, never gone to the gym, like I'm just done with it, right? I could not be more happy about the decision. I don't miss playing. I'm just done. I'm good. And
you're on to the next thing.
Yeah, and I'm like,
wow,
I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
I thought I'd be sitting there like, oh, it's Monday night. You guys are playing here. I should be at the gym right now. Like, I thought I'd be in that situation, and I'm not even remotely.
So. That's really a blessing. Yeah.
But that means I did it the right way, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. Well, if you're listening today, I guess I'd just like to say, as always, think about your life, think about your priorities, think about where you have set the bar in decisions and in choices, and maybe you need to do some evaluation and raise it up a little bit and go for something more, because I guarantee you, if you raise the bar and you reach further, those watching will follow. It's contagious. And there's an energy that comes with watching somebody really go for something, especially those spiritual things, just sharing our faith, and we make excuses for everything, even that. And so I think it's I've been personally raising the bar. I got to share today. So, I'm looking every day for opportunities. So.
Yeah, awesome.
Anyway, hey, if you're watching on YouTube, welcome. Be sure you subscribe. We've got, I don't know, what are we up to, like 20, 30?
I don't know. We had no expectations. So we're happy for every subscriber.
We're going for the stars, people. So join us. Hit subscribe.
Hey, you guys know how the YouTube algorithm, I don't know why I can't talk right now. The YouTube algorithm works. Obviously, the more likes that we get on the videos, the more you share it, everything, watch time, it all helps to where it will naturally get it in front of other people.
Yep.
And we can't say enough. Our goal on this is just to spread a message of hope and love, and give some people things to think about that will hopefully make their life better. Yep. So thanks for tuning in with us, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you for joining this broadcast with the breakdown duo of Deb and T-Wise. Share this podcast with someone it might help and hit subscribe. See you next week as the duo breaks it down to build you up.